Welcome to Sidewalk Talk. I'm Maria Batt. I'm the Director of Design at Shovel the Sidewalk. We are a marketing firm, a small business in Buffalo, New York, building brands for other small businesses. Then we push their message out into the world through storytelling. We strongly believe in storytelling. We believe in the power of sound, and that's why we started Sidewalk Talk. We've kind of taken a turn and now are talking with people in the community that will allow us to connect each other, maybe offer some advice for all of us that are stuck at home, or share stories that will inspire us to rise up and act. And today I'm really excited to have with us an artist. He's a teacher at West Seneca West, owner of Devil Chicken, and has really risen to the occasion and doing something to really kind of help out other small businesses. Chris Galley, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for taking the time out of what is probably a crazy, busy, hectic day.
Yeah,
Like all of us.
definitely different.
So first, I want to get into kind of your upbringing a little bit, because I think that really shows where your inspiration comes from, if anybody's ever read your statement. But can you explain to me Devil Chicken? Where did that come from?
That's the thing everyone always wants to know is
Everybody asks us, why the hell are you named Shovel the Sidewalk? And Devil Chicken is pretty creative too.
it's just been one of those names that I've held on to since high school. I always knew someday I was going to do something with it. And it's kind of where Devil Chicken design came from. One of the neat things, I was cleaning out my classroom maybe 2 years ago, and I found a box of old 3.5-inch floppy disks tucked away in the back of a filing cabinet. And as I was like getting ready to throw them all out, I actually found like 3 or 4 of them back from late 80s, maybe early 90s, labeled Devil Chicken design, and they were my early logo attempts. So it's been something that I've held on to just for a long time. And it's just kind of been that memorable name that sticks. So, and that's always the first question. 1, who's Devil Chicken? And 2, where does it come from?
Were you able to get that stuff off of the floppy disks to
I
don't even know where to go to do that now.
Yeah, I didn't. I still have them. Those were the ones I didn't throw away. So I'm gonna see if I can do something with them. But I did find some prints of early logo attempts, different from what I use now, but they have the same colors, which is kind of interesting.
So you moved around a little bit. You're born in Buffalo, and then correct, right? And then you moved to Pennsylvania for a little bit near Pittsburgh.
Yep, all over the place. When I was a kid, I moved a lot. I actually changed schools every year up until high school. I think around the time I was supposed to go into maybe 6th grade, my dad took a job in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow.
Working on a water drilling team. We lived on Eggert Road in the town of Tonawanda, and sold everything. My mom and I were ready to move over. He was there for 6 months. And I think we were going to leave on a Monday, and there was a knock on the door on Friday, and it was my dad. He actually had to escape out of the country because the government decided they wanted to renegotiate the contracts.
Wow.
So that was how we ended up down to Pittsburgh. The firm he worked for was based out of Pittsburgh, so we ended up down there for a little while, to Erie, PA after that, and then to Lockport, where I went to high school, met my wife, met some good friends, and kind of started my art career.
So you kind of traveled the Rust Belt.
Yes.
Blue collar town to blue collar town.
Yes. It's amazing to go back to some of these places and see how much they've changed, and kind of to see that evolution in Buffalo now is something I didn't think I would see in my lifetime, but I'm really proud of this area and the changes it's making.
It's really following Pittsburgh's suit. I know a few years ago when my husband and I were there for a concert, kept thinking this is what Buffalo could be like. You know, there's it's a blue collar city. There's all these incredible old buildings that could be something. And before this pandemic, we were like, we're in this crazy renaissance, and a big renaissance within the art community too. Artists' names are becoming more recognizable. We know who the community is. We're getting to know each other. I think it's really exciting.
definitely. And that's one of the things I talk to my kids about at school, about the changes in Buffalo that you've seen kind of hit into some of those Rust Belt cities. They finally made their way to Buffalo, and I'm a big believer that it's been the arts community that really started to kind of pave the way for some of those changes to kind of move into some of the neighborhoods that were definitely less desirable, that are now kind of the hot real estate areas in the city right now, just kind of start to push that rebirth. And it's pretty amazing, all the traveling I do for art. You tell people you're from Buffalo, and you kind of get some sideways looks and some grimaces. But we've always challenged them, come to Buffalo, come in the summertime, because there's always something going on. You're going to love what you see here. And everyone that's taken us up on that and has passed through has been really amazed and wanted to come back.
Yeah, who would ever have thought, 10 years ago that people would be wanting to move into the fruit belt?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. It's great to see the changes.
So, I don't know if anybody who's listening or watching and you've ever seen any of Chris's work, and you learn his story, I think it's very easy to understand where his inspiration comes from. So you said you were brought up on 70s and 80s TV. So
Yeah.
like Evel Knievel and Saturday morning wrestling and like all that awesome like balls to the wall stuff. No regard for danger or anything like that. And when you were in Pittsburgh, you lived near a pretty famous cemetery.
I did. I actually kind of found it by accident. I was a little kid at the time. We were playing hide and seek in the woods, and kind of ran up the hill behind my house and came out into a clearing and looked around, and it just felt really oddly familiar. And another kid came out of the woods and kind of saw me standing there, and it turned out that was the cemetery where they filmed Night of the Living Dead. And actually the elementary school, it was like elementary, middle, high school kind of thing. It's a real small town, Evans City, Pennsylvania. Actually, they filmed George Romero's movie The Crazies in the school. The science rooms were part of the movie, and the gym was a prison camp. So
yeah. I don't think I saw that one.
It's got some interesting history. So it was that along, at that time in my life, my mom always loved scary movies and would terrify me on Halloween jumping out of places. So to kind of have that indoctrination, it really stuck with me.
So most people who are artists, it starts very early. It's not something that you decide to do, like become a dermatologist or become a cop or something. It always starts somewhere. How did this start for you?
It was one of those things that a little bit of encouragement at a young age really sparked something. As I said earlier, I moved around a lot as a kid, and I was an only child, so it was one of those things of constantly moving into new towns or new neighborhoods, and not knowing anybody. So you would spend time alone, and drawing always just kind of kept me busy. But it was also that way, once I got into school, other kids would kind of come around to see what you were working on. So it was kind of that first indoctrination to be able to make friends and kind of easily meet people.
And were you always kind of working on the same things? Were you the skeletons and collage, it looks like, and were you always kind of on the same path, or have you had different phases?
Yeah, definitely some different phases. I think it was always in the back of my mind, like when I was a little kid, those were the things I would want to draw, and trucks and all that, typical elementary boy stuff. But then went through art school, and it was one of those things. Even being a teacher, I always made art, and I always tried to exhibit in local shows or try to get stuff out to different contests and things like that. But I really wasn't happy with what I was making. It just kind of felt too academic, a little bit boring. So finally one day, I just kind of decided I was going to change it up. And it actually was it was on the recommendation of one of my students. I had this one girl, Rachel. She was a really talented artist, really sweet kid, was just in my room working one day after school. And she asked me about, the type of artwork I make at home. And I had some pictures on my phone, so I showed her some stuff and, talked about, hey, one day I'm going to kind of make a push and try to get this out there. And she graduated that year. And at the end of the year in June, she actually gave me a thank you card for spending extra time with her and helping her with stuff, which I thought was really sweet.
Mhm.
And the last line in the card said, "You shouldn't wait anymore. You should make your art now. It's good." So that was the time I kind of changed up a little bit of the things I was doing at school. I was a coach for a long time. So I stepped away from that and decided to focus on art making. And that focus was, I was kind of get rid of everything that I had previously done and just focus either in on techniques that I felt I was really good at or that I wanted to learn. So kind of, doing some traveling and seeing street art. I wanted to get better at that, tried to work some of that in. I do a lot of digital design work at school. So I found ways to integrate that and was always just good at kind of drawing and painting. So I tried to stick with those things. And I think the most important thing was I didn't make it for anyone. It was just something that if I was happy with it, that was enough. And, the fortunate thing and the really lucky thing is that people took to it. I've been busy since then.
I think, I have two kids. One's in high school, one's 10 years old. We try to keep him alive every day, and if we can do that, we're doing a pretty good job. He's probably a devil chicken himself. But to have your kid come to you and say, I want to be an artist, not every parent would really be like, absolutely, you should go and do that. But your parents must have really encouraged you and pushed you.
Um, a little bit. It was a little bit of a mixed bag, like anything. I think they were definitely concerned with how I was going to be able to support myself.
Mhm.
No one wants a starving artist living in their basement,
Right.
if their whole life. So it was one of those things of trying to balance that out. I think they recognized the drive that I had and kind of the logical head on my shoulders to have a career where I could support myself and a family.
Mhm.
But I don't think they necessarily understood it or the potential of it. And it really wasn't until I was probably into my mid to late 20s before they fully came around on it and actually told me that I had made the right decision, kind of pursuing, ultimately my dream.
Mhm. That's lucky. Not everybody can do what they love. So that's got to feel really great to
It is.
is what is it, the saying, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, right?
Sure. Yeah. I feel very fortunate to be able to, to have a successful life by drawing and painting. It's pretty amazing.
So you said that you did the art that drove you. You painted for yourself. You created for yourself. And when you got out into the community, they really accepted you. And did you start with the motorcycle community? Was that your first shows that you had going to different rallies? How did you get linked with that group, that community?
Yeah, it was. As I said earlier, I'd always exhibited locally in small galleries, different things here and there, art voice photo shows, things like that.
Mhm.
But the first out of state shows were motorcycle related. And it was just, kind of being on internet forums. And that's really where the web is kind of opened. It's really opened up the world. And, it was just one of those things of, I'm going to reach out and contact these people and say, hey, I do weird paintings. If you want them at your show, I'll come. And we kind of took the punk rock approach to art of load everything in the truck. My wife, the dog, we pile in, drive someplace where we don't know how things are going to be and set up. The motorcycle community has been incredibly welcoming, warm. It's kind of that adage of how people can look really scary.
Mhm.
They're the nicest, friendliest, warmest people that we've had the opportunity to meet, and I really credit a huge amount of my success with that community because they're the ones that talk to their friends and invited me to other places that have really given me the opportunity to not only see the United States, but also the country, Europe, Canada. I've been able to travel and show my work at motorcycle events, which has been really, really cool.
One thing that's really, my husband has a motorcycle, and it's one thing that's so cool is it's so easy to connect. If you're somebody who rides and you understand how that feels, and the being on the bike and the wind and the gears, like all of it, it's just such an easy way to connect with other people.
Yeah, it kind of is talked a little bit about earlier about that way when I was a kid of art being able to make friends. It's having that instant commonality that you can immediately connect to. Oh, hey, what do you ride? And it's the thing that's been pretty cool is it's not where you come from or what your family is or what you do for a living or even what type of motorcycle you ride. It's just you're into the same thing. We have this in common. Let's be friends.
Right.
Yeah.
So you also work on skateboard decks.
Yes.
How did that happen? Because that's not exactly a motorcycle.
No, as a kid growing up, I was a skateboarder. I was probably the worst skateboarder ever. I got hurt way more often than I pulled tricks. But it's always been that thing that's kind of stuck with me. And it's kind of goes back to that adage of a punk rock approach to art. That skateboarding has always been that ethos of, make it yourself and just put your stuff out there. So a few years ago, I just decided, I'm going to order up some blank decks and see what I can put on them. And again, I think a lot of that custom motorcycle world that supported my art is made up of skateboarders that came up through that culture, and they just took to it. So it's been kind of a cool way and something a little bit different. Typically my paintings are considerably bigger, 3 to 4 feet wide. So for me, it was kind of a nice change up as well to do something fun in a smaller scale that I could turn over a little bit quicker and, just basically make it work.
So now you're taking your art and you're taking these skateboard decks, right? Skateboard deck.
Yep.
And you're helping small businesses. So if you've ever gotten an ice cream, hopefully it's couch potato because that's my favorite one, or at a Lake Effect, or you got a margarita at Cantina Loco, you've probably seen some of Chris's work. How are you helping them right now?
So the thing I've been most impressed about during all of this craziness is how people have been pitching in and just kind of helping out in their community, their neighbors, doing whatever they can to help out. So I figured I would try to use my art to help support the folks that have supported my career in the past. And both Lake Effect and Cantina Loco had commissioned original paintings from me over the years. So I took the digital files of those artworks and I'm having them made into custom skateboards. And I'm doing a pre-sale right now through my website and through my Instagram, and all of the orders of those 2 decks with the artwork from those locations is going to be donated back to those businesses to help support their employees who are either unemployed, furloughed, or just having their hours drastically cut right now.
That's awesome. There's so much, I think, that people can do from home that maybe don't realize that the little bit that they could do to give back could really help out.
I'm hoping that's the case. And so far that I've had the pre-sale going for about a week. And I think we're around the $500 or $600 mark raised for those businesses. I'm really hoping to kind of kick that up a little bit more. So thank you for this opportunity to help get the word out and really do something for both of those businesses. Like I said, they've been incredibly supportive of me. And I think more importantly, I consider all the folks that run those businesses friends. So I want to try to do my part to help them out.
And they're awesome. I mean, if anybody's ever been to Lake Effect or you've been to Cantina Loco, it doesn't matter who you are, you go there and you're going to feel welcomed instantly. The food is incredible. It's creative and it's fun. And I don't know, that's one thing that is really kind of moved me, at least during all of this, is to see what people are doing. It's one thing to say we're Buffalo, we're the city of good neighbor, but it's the actions that you take that really proves that. How would you encourage, aside from purchasing a skateboard deck, and we'll tell everybody how they can get them, but what would you say to encourage other people that are sitting at home, and just thinking what they could do to help out?
It's kind of what I tell my kids at school: play to your strengths. Whatever it is that you do that makes you uniquely you, the part of you that you're proud of, that's what you've got to get out into the community. Even if it's something as small as checking in on a neighbor, checking in on a friend, just to see how they're doing during all of this, because it's incredibly easy to become isolated just inside of your house all day. So just even those small steps that may not seem like much can mean the world to somebody. If you can do more, you can sew masks, you can make skateboards, whatever it is that you can do to pitch in. I think this is the time where it's going to mean the most.
How are you staying connected with your students right now?
That's been a little bit tricky because it's
Sure.
been on the fly. So I've been kind of giving myself a crash course on Google Classroom. We've been utilizing. Prior to that, during the school year, I've been using an app called Remind, and it's basically you can send out text alerts with that, and then just from there, emails. Initially, getting this started, I maybe thought back to what I would do if I was in this situation as a high school student, and it's real easy to kind of ignore some things and not do anything. But I've been amazed at the resiliency and tenacity of my kids at school, and how impressed I've been with the quality of work they've been turning out. Again, initially I thought, I'll be lucky if I can get a couple kids to stay in contact, and I've got the vast majority of them that are not only staying in contact, but are really trying their best to make it through this situation. So cheers to them.
I know there's some people who are more analytical, they're very, numbers and science, but I think to have some part of your day or your week to just be creative, to just create something, it fills such an important need. Not everybody has a medium that they like to work with. Not everybody even knows what medium is in terms. But what are some things maybe we can do with our kids, or just if you're an adult in your home and you're sick of just binging Netflix and walking the dog all day? What's something that people can do artistically to create, to kind of keep that side of our brain working a little bit?
Take advantage of our immensely deep pool of community resources here in Buffalo, or cultural creative resources, I should say. The Albright Knox and the Birchfield Penny are the first two big names that come to mind. They've been putting out weekly connection emails that you can sign up through their website, or even just go to their website and connect. And through those websites, they've got lessons and challenges of art projects that are geared towards kids, but also adults. And actually, I just got an email from the Albright Knox this morning that they're doing a drink and draw class for adults coming up, I think, next week. So they're your favorite beverage and whatever materials you have handy, and they're going to have an online course through their education department. There are other brands like Van Sneakers is right now is having a challenge to make something out of cardboard, old shoe boxes,
Mhm.
and posting it on their website and giving away free pairs of shoes for kind of creativity, originality. So it's not so much of being intimidated by it. And that's what I've been trying to kind of gear my art classes at West with right now, but more of staying active, challenging yourself creatively, try some different things. If you don't have glue, make it flour, sugar, and water, and you can make paste at home. So I think that's the big thing of just taking that first step to make that decision that I'm going to do something other than, like you said, watch Netflix or get out and walk the dog for the 13th time today.
I know our dogs are exhausted.
Yeah.
They can't wait for this to be over too,
No,
I think.
back to their sleep.
Yeah, I know, right? So how can we find you know what else I want to say was your ornaments. Are you planning on maybe doing those ornaments again this winter?
I will. I've kind of pared it back a little bit. They became the bane of my existence usually around October because I was painting, I think initially over 100 of them a year,
Yeah.
and they take some time. So I've kind of pared it back to 50, and I'll have those ready for Christmas time. I'll throw a plug out for a great local holiday art show, the Queen City Market, that's held every December at the Carpellis Museum. If you haven't been, it's all local makers. It's a juried show. The quality has always been incredibly high. So I'm gearing to have some ready for them if they'll have me back. I do have a few left over from this year. I was actually just thinking about it last night of maybe doing a Christmas in July sale, get rid of all the old inventory and get ready to make some new ones. But yeah.
Well, that should work. We've had enough snow, so
There's maybe still some outside.
certainly might. I love those ornaments. It's funny because they're new. There's skulls on them and they're punk and they're awesome, but they remind me so much. I have my grandparents' ornaments from their first Christmas tree from like the 50s, and they remind me so much of them. Just the colors and the kind of
Your grandparents sound awesome.
they're pretty awesome. They're pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So how can we find the decks? How can we support you and how can we support Cantina Loco and Lake Effect?
Probably the easiest way is devilchickendesign.com. Go there, click the online store link, and they're right at the top. And again, it's the Zapata deck and the Happy Landings deck. All the proceeds from those two are going to those two local businesses. So every deck that we can get out there helps the community, just helps make people's lives, I think, a little bit easier right now with everything going on.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, the hospitality industry is getting hit so hard. These people are, I mean, stuck at home. It's not just 16-year-olds bussing tables. These are careers, people. I mean, if some of these bartenders, even just bartenders in Buffalo, they're giants now. That's what they do. That's what their passion is. So thank you so much for helping them. So we will have that link in the comments and on our YouTube channel. If you know anybody else who has a story that needs to be told, or they're getting up and they're helping everybody in Western New York to really make this time that we're all down count, let us know. You can watch our podcast at shovelthesidewalk.com or on any platform that they have, Spotify, iTunes, or whatever else it is. We got somebody listening in India not too long ago. I don't know how that got all the way out there. So thank you so much again, Chris, and support him, guys. Buy the skateboard decks. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.